This episode of the Batify podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media, and please do subscribe. Enjoy. Welcome in to the Batify podcast. I'm Travis Creasy, along with my co-host, our cohort in crime, Ben Hayes. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Travis. Good to be here again. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Just got back in from celebrating my 12th wedding anniversary. How about that? A couple of days early, but doing well. We've got a great guest with us. Ava Johnson is with us. Ava, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
That's awesome stuff. We're glad you're here. It's kind of when you reached out to us and we got on board to do this podcast, I immediately went, man, I hope that it's okay that two guys are going to interview you about this circumstance and situation. And one thing I've said over and over again about this podcast is it kind of gets me out of my comfort zone in talking about things that are difficult but also seeing how God works through those. So Ava, tell us a little bit about you, what you do for a living, your wonderful husband and all that good stuff, and just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Ava. I am the social services director at a long-term care facility here in Florence. I've been there about 3 years. I've been married to my wonderful husband for about 4.5 years, and we live like a mile from my parents and from my sister and from my uncles and not too far from my grandparents. So we're just, a really close family. And I've was, born in the church, as they say. My parents are Christians and met at a youth rally and, all of the traditional Christian family things. And I've been so blessed with that. And I just started a Instagram page with my two best friends, and we are doing girls Devos once a week, and the page is called Devo Divas. And so go follow us on Instagram, and we put out content every week. So excited about that.
It sounds like a great one for us to follow, Travis, the Devo Divas.
Well, I'm just sad that they took that name. I mean, that would have been awesome for us, right? The Devo Divas.
That's right. The cool thing is, Travis, we've got to kind of watch Ava grow up, and at Maywood, we've been around. You guys, you've been going probably most of your life, haven't you? If not all your life.
Yeah, I was 3 the first time I went to Maywood.
Okay, we were there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. I feel great. Married for 12 years and 85 years old. So,
yeah.
But that's really neat. We love camp. We have had a lot of people on here that we've actually been counselors of, at one time or another, who are now married and living their adult life, which is always a nice reminder of just how old you are. But
yeah. I was trying to think the first time I remembered y'all, and I was probably like 5 or 6 or 7, and we were doing the Sunday night scavenger hunt in the pictures, and they were asking for the person with the longest hair, and my mom didn't cut my hair ever until I was like 10 years old, and so it was like down to my butt, and so they threw me up there, and it was in a ponytail, and Travis was trying to get it out of the ponytail, and it just kept getting in a bigger knot. And I just remember not liking you the whole week because you pulled my hair.
I think I remember that. That's great. I didn't realize that was you, but I remember it.
That was me.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't one of those stories of Travis eating already chewed gum during the scavenger, because that happened on several occasions.
Well, I hate to tell you, my experience of getting hair out of ponytails has not gotten any better. My daughter would attest. She hates when it's my turn to wash their hair because inevitably she has a bow and then a little, ponytail, whatever, and I can't get it out of there without her screaming and losing her mind. So I haven't gotten any better. I hate to report. Well, like I said, Ava, we're so happy to have you with us and so thankful that you were willing to reach out to us and come be with us this evening. And so, as we get into our interview, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been through and maybe just the initial way in which you've dealt with it and the challenges of that.
So me and Dustin, we got married in 2015. And so 2016, we decided that we were wanting to grow our family. And so, we started trying in November, and things just weren't adding up. So we went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which really can affect fertility a lot. And so for the first couple of years, we didn't really know what to do. So we just kind of kept trying naturally. We were talking with our, some of our close family about what we should do and getting advice from them. And then we finally decided that, this is probably something that we need to seek treatment for. So in February of last year, 2019, we started going to an OBGYN regularly and doing some just initial treatments with them. And we did 10 rounds of just kind of a light treatment with them, and weren't having any success. And so in February of this year, we decided to go to what's called a reproductive endocrinologist, which is like a fertility specialist. And so we started doing kind of some heavier procedures with them, and we're, still kind of on that path. So we've been on this infertility journey for about 3.5 years, and we're still waiting on our blessing from God.
Appreciate you sharing that story with us. I know that's a difficult journey, as I've known several people who have who've been on that journey, and so I'm thankful for you coming and sharing. And Travis, I know he is too. To share with us some of that and some of what you've went through, and you might just share some of the personal challenges of that, and maybe for people who either one don't understand, or maybe some of the people who are also currently on that journey with you. What are some of the things that you have learned or challenges that you have seen in all of this?
Yeah, so kind of the best way that I can think of to describe it to people who really don't know what it's like to go through infertility is it's like you apply for a job that you want every month. And every month you get this terrible denial letter, and it's very painful in multiple ways, but it's just your dream job that you've wanted for your whole life, and you're just not getting it. And so for me, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't really respond to the challenge like I think God would have wanted me to. I kind of went through a grieving process of, I went through every step. At first I was denying that there was even a problem, and it was just, something that was going to resolve really quickly. And I got like really angry with God and was kind of acting like a 2-year-old, just, not understanding why he chose to bless people who either didn't want children or were abusing their children, that he would, see fit to give them that blessing, but not me. And I went through bargaining where, I was like, well, if you give me this, then, I will use that child, kind of like Hannah did with Samuel. I'll dedicate him to you. Or and then, I got really depressed and I didn't want to really talk to anybody. I had a hard time, like, even just sitting through service and listening to the preacher talk about how much God loves you, because I just didn't feel it at that time. But now I'm kind of moving to a point where I'm accepting it and I'm accepting God's plan. But it's really, a daily journey. It's not something that, like, oh, well, I'm just completely over it. It's something that I have to kind of choose every day to work through and to not dwell on, I guess.
When Kubler-Ross did those stages of grief that you just kind of walked through, she was doing those not for people who died, but for people who were going through the whole dying process. And later on, she said, I really wish I hadn't put them that way, because it's not just a stage you move through statically or, linearly. It's something that, you may have the bargaining part and then have the anger and then go back to feeling okay and then have the anger again. And, you may just, it comes in waves and it does different things. And so that absolutely makes sense. And I think it makes perfect sense in looking at the people in the scriptures. You said, I don't know that I dealt with it the way God wanted me to. God knows how we're set up and how we respond to things. So it sounds like you dealt with it pretty much the way God sets us up to deal with things. And, you are doing a beautiful job of walking through it, it sounds like. So in that process, have you seen God show up in some ways in that really stands out to you?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many examples that I couldn't even list them all, but once I completely understood what seeking God first looked like in real life instead of just as a concept, it just gave me, like, so much peace to know that He is using this journey to better me. I mean, I can just feel like I have grown so much more patient, and I am more sympathetic towards other people and less judgmental. And it was hard, though, at times, because when you're looking at those examples in the Bible of all the women who had fertility problems, it just seemed so personal that God was, like, holding their fertility in his hands, and so it was hard for me not to take it personal. But once I kind of hit rock bottom spiritually, to where I was doubting my whole belief system, God was the only one there at the bottom of the pit that was able to kind of pick me up. And the turning point for me, was at Maywood when I heard Travis talking about his his sermon was on resilience, and he was talking about his cancer journey and how terrible his journey was, but yet, like, it wasn't the worst one, because he was talking about, like, all the children who would love to be at camp, but they're sick and in hospitals. And I was just thinking, like, why am I so selfish that I am complaining about the one thing in life that I don't have, that I am throwing a big fit about this, when I just need to be grateful for what I have. And it's kind of changed my whole perspective on all of life, and not just in the fertility world.
Well, you use the word here in the notes I've got, resuscitate your spiritual life. And, I was listening to another podcast today, and they were talking about how, when he raised Lazarus from the dead, he didn't raise Lazarus from the dead and go, oh, and by the way, you're never going to have any problems, right? Lazarus is going to die again. He's going to get sick again. He's going to hurt. There's going to be problems. But the beauty of that coming out of the tomb, he says, his sisters know, oh yeah, you'll resurrect him on the day, when you come back. We believe in that resurrection, but do we believe in the resurrection that happens in our spiritual life? Regardless of, if I get cancer again, or, your circumstance turns around, there's that resurrection that he can bring about, and really only he can, and I appreciate you sharing that. And a lot of times I preach about not having anxiety, and Jesus tells us that you don't have to have anxiety, but Ben is always there to kind of remind me that it's a process that we work through. There's always going to be something new that comes along, but what it forces us to do is rely on God in those situations. And so I appreciate you sharing that. I know you mentioned Maywood. Is there a scripture or song lyric or something specifically? And I also want to say that, you having a 2-year-old response, I'm certainly on that bus. I can get on the 2-year-old response, have it with my family here on a regular basis just about. But, I think that God, our anger, I think Ben has said this a couple of times, our anger is not bigger than God, and he mentioned that, how we're built to respond in certain ways. But it leads us to a closer relationship. So is there any, maybe a scripture or song that's really spoke to you in this time?
So my favorite one recently has been 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, where he's talking about how he's prayed 3 times that God, relieve him of this thorn in his flesh, and how God said that his grace is sufficient, and his power is made strong in weakness. And I thought about like all of the people in the Bible who prayed for something, and it wasn't necessarily answered the way that they wanted it to be. So, Jesus prayed that the cup would pass from him, and he still died on the cross. So I'm thinking, if Jesus' request didn't get answered the way he wanted it to, then who am I to plead my case and it be answered exactly the way that I want it to be?
I don't know that I say this exactly the way Charles Hodge did, but I kind of got this thought from a guy named Charles Hodge that wrote a book on prayer. And, he said, sometimes God says yes. I may have shared this on one of the other podcasts, but sometimes God says yes. Sometimes he says no. Sometimes he says wait. And we can see examples of all those. Sometimes he says, I'm going to give you more exceedingly abundantly, more than you can ask or think. And then the last one that kind of always stuck with me is that sometimes God gives us God. As we're praying, that's really what's happening, is he's helping tune our hearts to him. And so, it's not necessarily about what we get from prayer as far as the thing we're asking for, but that we get a piece of him to help us through whatever the answer is. And that kind of has always stuck with me, is it's more of a tuning of our hearts together. So with all of these things, what do you feel like you know about God that maybe you didn't know before? And anything else that maybe I'm skipping over here, but what are some things you've learned about him, about his people, whatever it may be?
That he's good. I didn't necessarily believe that through the whole journey. But once I kind of broke down my whole belief system and kind of started from scratch and was looking and just reading his words and looking at all of his promises, promises not to hurt us and to give us rest, and that he will provide for us. Once I kind of put away my own ambitions and, dedicated my life truly to him, he just gives you so much peace once you realize that no matter what happens to you in this life, it's for his glory. And if you suffer a lot in this life, then he's going to reward you in the end. And this life is so temporary, but God is eternal.
I've had conversations with people who, through my cancer journey, and people go, I've been asked before, you feel like you're missing out on life because of the choice you've made in following Christ. And my response is I wish that I could give you what I have without the suffering. I wish that through the leukemia, and I'm sure through your circumstance, what Ben said about he gives us him, he gives us what we need. And, I go back to Ben talking about the walk. You're progressing through those steps, but it's not static. Walking is hard enough for me, right? And the last thing I want to hear in my situation or any bad situation I'm in is the walk part. And then Ben comes along and says, "You're going to go back and forth between each of them on that." And I'm like, no, I want to get on the other side of this thing. And, in my rush, it's very easy to miss what you're talking about, the blessing in it. Don't let me miss the lesson.
Just want to take a moment as we get ready to ask the final question to our guests to encourage you, if you are in the market or looking to create your own podcast, to look at Anchor. That's what we use. As you listen, you may be thinking, if these two guys can do it, then anybody can, and that's absolutely true with Anchor. The best part is it's free. There's plenty of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can also contact and have your guests on from different locations or right there in the room with you. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey guys, this is Ben. I wanted to tell you about something that's really exciting right now that's going on. We're doing a Batify 30-day challenge. Many of you have jumped on board with that, but for those that are a part of it, we want to remind you to go to benandtravis.bigcartel.com. That's benandtravis.bigcartel.com, and you can order a t-shirt for that, or you can sign up for the virtual 5K that we're having on July the 4th. And we would love to have as many as possible sign up for these two things. And you can also give some donation if you would like. And all the proceeds, the t-shirts, the virtual 5K, and the donations will be going towards St. Jude. We're encouraging people, if they can, to sign up to raise money for the St. Jude Marathon weekend, which is coming up in December. And if you sign up for that, we'll split those proceeds among all those of our group who sign up and let us know that they're going to do that. You can sign up for the St. Jude Marathon, and when you do that, right now as a hero, I think starting in July, you can just sign up to do the run, but right now you can sign up to raise money for that and automatically become a part of the race. If you do that, then we're going to split the proceeds among all those who sign up, and all of that money anyway goes towards St. Jude. There's no medical bills for those who are at St. Jude, those patients that are there. They pay for their travel expenses. They give food vouchers to them while they're there. They provide housing, and they partner with local businesses to get discounts to restaurants and area attractions. It is an amazing place. Our family has been touched by it, and we're thankful for all that they do and have done for us. And so we just want to give back. And so if you would like to give to that, then you can go and visit benandtravis.bigcartel.com and either get you a t-shirt, sign up for the virtual 5K, or just give a donation, and we'll be happy to get that to St. Jude. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Have a great day.
What is, Ava, what is one of your, if you're like me, you have multiple, but what is one unpopular opinion that you have?
Blowing your nose in front of people is not okay. That is a private matter that should be taken care of in a bathroom. That is disgusting. I can't.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, in what other place is it okay to like have bodily secretions coming out of you where it's in public? Nowhere. Like every other secretion is done in private.
I think I agree with that unpopular opinion. I don't think that's unpopular with me.
Well, not everyone agrees with it, let me tell you, because people will do it all the time.
Oh, that's funny. I don't care who you are. That's great.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Batify Podcast. Be sure to download the Ministry League app and get all of our sister podcasts, along with all sorts of great ministry material at facebook.com/Ministry League. Until next time, look for us at the same Batify time, same Batify channel.